there need to be more people at college universities saying no. On a moral standpoint, this guy is a terrible human being to be the leader of young men. And if you're going to cover up more of his bad humaning and bad leadership, because there is nobody who can tell me Urban Meyer is fit to lead young men. He is fit to win football games, that's fine. But if that's your only objective as a college football program, then you need to take the tag of amateurism off and pay the damn kids. Because if that's all you're worried about, when you go into those homes and you continue to say, well, we're offering you a free education and we're going to help mold the minds of these young men and we're going to help make them the leaders of the next generation, you're fucking lying when you allow a guy like Urban Meyer, human trash, to run your program.
The only thing that scares me about him is he loves hunting, which means he has guns, and eventually he's going to wind up snapping too.
No, see, you're wrong. He's not the kind of personality snap. You know why? Doesn't care. He honestly doesn't seem to care about anything. He doesn't care about winning football games. He doesn't care about feeding goldfish.
Oh.
It's time to get things started on the most sensational, inspirational, celebrational, motivational.
Welcome back to the Off Base Sports Podcast host. Once again, I am your host, Jason Benicki Critchlow, and joined again by
Todd.
Todd never brings the energy. Not once, not in his life. I even played some of the Muppet song you guys just heard as the intro music, and it had him doing his little shoulder dance in his chair like Tony Kornheiser, and he had no energy whatsoever to his time.
Busting the penguin dance, damn it.
I know, and it was awful. So I'm going to start by apologizing for the 3-week layoff, but I've been busy. But you'll also notice some of that busy involves some new changes to the podcast. Hopefully some things we'll demonstrate tonight. Some other things may not work, but we'll try and pull it all together. And I promise you guys it will not be 3 weeks anymore. I will try to have an episode for you every Thursday morning. So that means that worst case scenario, I'll have recorded them by Wednesday night. And I hope some of you will follow me on Twitter at JASONBANICKI, and will call me out if there's not an episode for you Thursday morning. I'm counting on you guys for some accountability here. I need it. I need you to push me. Even if it's just a solo short episode, I want to have something there for you every week. But anyways, as always, you can like our Facebook page, follow us on Instagram, follow the podcast on Twitter, Off Base Sports, for all of those. I wrote my second blog about Lev Bell. And please, as always, find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, CastBox, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts, we're there. And subscribe, rate, review, share it with your friends. We always like to have a few more people. And Todd will never give out his social media. Don't know why I even bring it up. But hey, Todd, do you still don't want to tell them where your social media is?
No.
Okay. And on that note, so
put it this way, if they follow you, they can find me easily.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Okay. I think you're putting too much faith in yourself there. But like I said, so it's been a few weeks. A lot has happened. A lot to talk about. A lot to catch up. And of course, in true fashion, we did not plan 1 second of what we were going to talk about. So I'm gonna leave
time out.
Todd.
I did my homework. I got my headlines.
He does. We'll get to that. Don't worry. We're not leaving out your favorite segment, guys, where I rant like a lunatic and you all enjoy. Although last time he went a little soft on the headlines, didn't lead to as many humorous moments as it could have. But anyways, so like I said, there's a lot to catch up on. Hopefully this won't take too long. I don't want to overkill you guys, but I think the first thing that I have to talk about is, as a certified Steelers fan and a guy who considers myself a down-home yinzer and says down there from time to time, goddamn Le'Veon Bell down there in Miami, not working out riding jet skis. So I've got to talk about that. First off, in further proof that there's always, an old tweet for everything, kudos to the people who dug back in the 2013 Lev Bell tweet timelines and found a tweet that said, if you can miss a whole season of a sport and it's not because you're injured, then you obviously don't love it. Well, Lev, guess what? We found out what you play football for.
Straight cash, homie.
That's what it's all about right now, because $14.5 million is as much as you earned in your first 5 years. And you could be right that you set a trend that works out better for every player who gets franchised in the future. But that ain't what it was ever about with you. First off, I think your agent gave you such terrible advice, and you just never quite comprehended it. I think, too, I'm not going to throw the the C word out there, collusion. But I think you might see your price tag suppressed this offseason because if Mark Sanchez can get a job as an NFL quarterback and Colin Kaepernick can't, I think NFL owners are more than happy to collude when it comes time to do business. And I think you're trying to skip out on the franchise tag is something that they'll be more than happy to collude about. I don't think they're going to feel the need to throw you $75-80 million with $50 million guaranteed as a reward for bucking their system. If you want to be mad at anybody, be mad at your player agency, the NFLPA, who negotiated these awful franchise tag rules.
You know, you said he wasn't smart enough to actually understand what was going on. You know, he did go to Michigan State, so I do have to throw that. You're probably right. That degree he has means nothing.
Todd cannot just help himself for his team that's probably about to get itself knocked out of the college football playoff this week. And he has to take a shot at Michigan State, who has nothing to do with this. Todd, that lets me just say one thing.
What the fuck?
Seriously.
Always will take that shot when it opens its door.
Yeah, you open it often. That's why I had to download a lot of those sound clips to the soundboard, just so we could have enough options.
No, you opened the door by saying he wasn't smart enough to understand what was going on, which opened the door being a Michigan State running back.
No, I think I said his agent didn't understand what was going on.
His agent gave him bad advice, and he didn't understand what was going on.
Anyways, I don't know why you had to take a shot at Michigan State there. It's not like you actually went to Michigan. You're just a fan.
Right.
So it's not like you went to a better school. I mean, you went to a regional IU campus. So I don't think you get to take shots anywhere.
I can still take shots at Michigan State.
I
can take a shot to the school down south, which I will not say their name during this whole podcast.
Might rhyme with Murdew. Might, but anyways, that didn't have a lot to do with what we were talking about. But yeah, I think it's going to cost him a lot more money than he thinks. I think him and his agent think they found a loophole, and then they're going to be sitting out either not playing because they don't think the money's good enough, and then sitting in a lawsuit the next couple of years like Colin Kaepernick. And now as a running back, you've ended your career because if you're 29 or 30, ain't nobody throwing money at you.
Correct.
So, it's going to be a test of his will this year. Now, like they say, it only takes one. But that's all it would have taken for Colin Kaepernick, and there's been an awful lot of unspoken collusion there because, I mean, rest in peace, Nathan Peterman. Unfortunately, he finally got axed by an NFL team. But the fact that he was employed and Colin Kaepernick wasn't, the fact that Blake Bortles is still allowed to quarterback an NFL franchise, the fact that Butt Fumble got re-signed to an NFL squad this week, Butt Fumble. None of that Matt Barkley got a start in the NFL last week before Colin Kaepernick even gets a phone call for a workout is proof of collusion.
I've got a better one. Sam Bradford has been in the NFL how long?
But he's never been out. And he's always been one of those guys who's talented but injured. You could always live with talented but injured.
Did you watch him in Arizona? There was no talent left.
Right, but he was talented but injured. Now you've seen that the talent is gone, the injuries have piled up. He won't see another $20 million contract. But you can at least justify taking one more shot on him. Matt Barkley had used up all his shots. Mark Sanchez has more than used up all his shots. Says a guy who's sitting next to a fan of a team who cut Mark Sanchez last year and kept Mike Glennon on their roster.
We didn't cut Sanchez. He was on the team. He never dressed. He was a third quarterback.
I thought he got cut. I think he got cut. I don't think Mark Sanchez was on your roster the whole year. I think you might want to go back and look that up.
But Nathan Peterman's got a job coming. I know who's going to sign him too.
Somebody will. Absolutely.
The Denver Broncos. Because that man can't judge quarterback talent worth a shit.
How can you be? I mean, it shouldn't surprise me. The best players are never the best talent evaluators, because then they just think like, well, yeah, of course, you just got to be me. Well, that doesn't work. Like, part of what made you was your talent. But yeah, Nathan Peterman will of course get another shot in the NFL. Somebody's going to take that chance. It's just, again, proof to me, week after week after week. You literally watched the Jaguars lose to the Steelers this Sunday. After I gave up watching the game because I was that frustrated and that certain they were going to lose, the Jaguars lost because they just would not let Blake Bortles throw the football. They were like, we don't trust you at all, so we're not going to do it. They did throw a ball like more than 10 yards once in that whole game period anyways. And then, yeah, they had like 68 yards of offense in the second half. total.
Oh, by the way, you also forgot somebody who's going to be starting the next 5-6 weeks for the season. Colt McCoy has a job, and he's a starting quarterback in the NFL.
How do NFL teams go to sleep at night and say, yeah, I don't feel bad about not giving Colin Kaepernick a chance. Nope, doesn't bother me at all. Like, I'm okay. It's fine. Like, we're trying to win football games. If you're the Redskins, you have control of the NFC East. You have the opportunity to win your division. And your thought is, no, I'm going to roll with Colt McCoy and Mark Sanchez. We'll be fine. I mean, seriously, who on earth makes that call?
Trump?
Dan Snyder. That's who makes that goddamn call. Yeah, and he's one of those MAGA guys, don't get me wrong. So we all know my take on MAGA owners, and we all know my take on Colin Kaepernick. We ain't going to keep going down that road. But it's just, it's mind-baffling to watch these last few weeks of NFL teams add quarterbacks that in no way, shape, or form have the talent or the track record of Colin Kaepernick, and the NFL somehow just hasn't settled their collusion case. It's like, just pay the man his money. You are going to pay him his money. They will be able, the opening and closing statements of that trial will be video of Nathan Peterman throwing interceptions. They're going to show the video of him throwing 5 interceptions in one game.
One half.
I was being generous in calling it one game. And then they're going to show him the next season throw 4 more interceptions in one game, and then show him starting the week after that as well. Case opened and closed. Done. If that man has a job and my client doesn't, and my client finished his last season in San Francisco with 17 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, I think was what it was, 18 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, I think there's a case to be made. The man went to an NFC championship game and a Super Bowl and back-to-back seasons. I think he's earned another shot if you're just talking football terms.
The jury will be 12 people who've lived under a rock, most likely women, who've never seen a football game in their life, although they'll still use that video and say, God, this man sucks.
Like, yeah, clearly working to keep about of, gotta go. Yeah, there are plenty of teams this year who've like, no, we'll rather just be bad and be awful than give this man a chance. So I don't want to beat that home. I don't know. I do know how we got here from Lev Bell, because I think Lev Bell is about to find out that his once dreamed of payday is gone. If he would have showed up in week 10, if he would have showed up at that deadline and played the last 5 games, even just as a part-time player, because it's all he was going to be down the stretch anyways. And I think part of it was the Steelers just didn't want him there to disrupt the locker room. That's why they didn't give him some of the assurances he was looking for. They were just like, no, we don't want you here. It's too late. But I also think that he had to show up and prove to the league that actually football still mattered somewhat to him in some part of this equation, and that I'm not going to try and change the luxury,
the franchise tag rule.
Yeah, I'm not going to try and change the franchise tag rule. The way the franchise tag works. I'm not trying to change the structure of the league. I'm not trying to sneak around our collective bargaining agreement. But once he did that, he is facing a much bigger hurdle than I think him or his agent have counted on. And I still think, and I agree, I'm stealing this from Pat McAfee on the Pat McAfee Show 2.0. Give it a listen. I will always cite my sources. I'm a big fan of that. Saying, at the end of the day, he's going to have to fire his agent at the end of this. There is no way he will ever see a decent paycheck, the kind of paycheck he's thinking of, if he doesn't fire his agent.
I've got one team thinking right now that will take him. They're going to fire their coach this year. They've got one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback in the league. They have no running game and no skilled wide receiver.
But they also don't have that much salary cap space next year.
Green Bay?
Yeah, they don't. I mean, they have space, but they don't have a lot, and they've got a lot of problems.
Well, they have a lot of problems. I'm not going to disagree with that.
Again, we've seen with Kaepernick, how many teams over the last 2.5 seasons now could have used Colin Kaepernick for whatever number it was. They could have used him, and they refused to sign him. There gets to be a point with the NFL owners. They do not care about winning football games as much sometimes as making a point.
There's no owner in Green Bay.
There is still a CEO.
Yes, there's a CEO.
There is a man who is making those calls.
But they also answer to the 13,000 owners they have there.
Right, and they're not going to care. But they do and they don't.
Okay.
Because those 13,000 owners don't own the bulk of the shares. Like, that's one of those great myths. Like, I think there's nobody that owns enough to coalesce around and remove a CEO. It's never happened.
Not to remove the CEO, but enough to...
That's what I'm saying. It's not going to happen.
I believe if Aaron Rodgers goes into there and says, you know what, I want him, after what they did to him this year...
First off, where does Green Bay get the cash? Green Bay does not have enough cash to come up 50 large after they just handed out a big chunk of cash
Well, they
to
have
Aaron
nobody
Rodgers.
on the team.
Right, but they don't have cash either. This is not... As you pointed out, so there are 30... So out of 32 teams, let's say 28 of them are owned by legit billionaires. We're talking guys with pockets full of cash.
Name the 4 that's not.
The Raiders,
Okay.
Green Bay,
Okay.
Pittsburgh's not, the Rooney family is not as flush with cash as they used to be. They still have other business interests, but they're not as flush with cash as they used to be. That's why they don't hand out. Typically, they're another franchise that doesn't hand out large signing bonuses.
Would not have guessed that one.
And
Gotta be Buffalo.
no, I mean Buffalo just got a new ownership group. Cons got a lot. I'm trying to think. I mean, I picked a random number. I knew 3 off the top of my head.
Okay.
I mean, so I was figuring there's a 4th, and then let me try and think. Now, Jed York has a ton of money in San Francisco. I don't know about the San Diego
I was going to
ownership.
say San Diego. I don't even know who it is, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know their ownership situation either. It could be. But again, it's fair to say that there are 4 teams that just don't seem to throw out a lot of big signing bonuses other than to a few key positions or players. You know, and the Steelers make up for it by structuring their deals a little differently and how they handle that. So it's a little different, but, you know, so you got to have that kind of cash flow to give out those big bonuses, even as profitable as the league is. If you don't have large upfront cash, reserves, it's hard to hand out a $40 to $50 million signing bonus, which is what he's looking for,
right?
To one player, and then build the rest of your roster.
I do have another team. I mean,
there's a lot of teams.
I have another backup team. I think they have the money. You have to correct me if I'm wrong here.
There are teams with money. There are teams that will be interested. There are also teams, again, point and case, that could have used Colin Kaepernick over the last 2.5 seasons who have refused. This gets to be not about the money side of it. It's not the dollars and cents. It is going to be 32 owners unspokenly, or possibly spokenly, but not on the record, saying we are not going to let him start a new pattern of navigating the franchise tag and set a pattern for the rest of our players going forward. Because if you allow one to do it, now everyone is going to do it. Why would any player on earth play under a second franchise tag that's not a quarterback?
Don't have an answer to that one. I mean, even as a quarterback, I don't have an answer to that one even if you were a quarterback.
But again, that's it. So it gets to be, again, it's not about need. It's not about dollars. It's not about fit. It's about the C word. It's about collusion. And I don't think he realizes what he's done until he doesn't get those offers and has to fire his agent. I think that is the future for Lev Bell. I think his agent played this so badly, and he doesn't even realize it, that he cost himself probably his only marquee client. Because if you actually look at his agent, he doesn't have many marquee clients either.
I didn't even recognize his name when I heard the agent names.
No. This isn't a marquee guy. And again, you would have never seen this with Drew Rosenhaus. First off, Drew Rosenhaus would have never let his client have pictures of him sitting on jet skis in Miami looking doughy. He'd have pulled out the TO playbook where he's in front of the press doing sit-ups and push-ups in the driveway. Like, you know how to do this, so you don't put questions in the back of people's minds. Like, was Lev Bell ever in football shape? Most people say no. Did he ever intend to play? Looks like no. But he kept telling other people different things. And some of that, I'm sure there was a legitimate interest in him at week 4 when the Steelers were 1-2-1 and struggling, thinking, I'll come back in week 8 after I'm in shape, because I wasn't in shape yet. So I have to give myself time to get in shape. And I'll come back and I'll be the savior. And then they ran off 4 wins in a row. And then he was like, well, there's no reason for me to come back now. Now I'll just look like I'm hopping on the good ship lollipop. And then once week 10 came around, he still left it up in the air. So he could say, well, if you agree not to franchise or transition tag me, then I'll show up. I'm like, why would we cave at this point? Like, we've rode this ship this far. We're at, 2.5 games up in the division, or a game and a half at the time, and looking fine. We're good. We'll see you. We'll see you in the off season.
Well, I still think there's a legal battle that's going to happen here too.
I fully expect. I know the rumors leaked that the NFL and the Steelers will try to challenge it. I think at the end of the day, somebody does.
I think I think the league's got to. He skipped year 2 of his franchise tag, and now he wants to go to 3, where he's paid the top 5 in the NFL average. Not as a running back, top 5 players in the NFL. I think the NFL is going to have to fight that, because then you get other people doing the same thing.
Correct, and that's why, again, if they don't win the tag, he's not going to see $70 million. I'm sorry, the owners are not going to reward him with a big contract for being an idiot. Sorry, that's just the reality of it. So I think that covers Lev Bell. I think there's lots of other NFL stuff to talk about, though. I think we've seen the Khalil Mack trade, aged poorly.
Return of the Mac.
One-man wrecking crew on defense. And God, I wish the Steelers could have swung a trade for him. TJ Watt has been great. Bud Dupree has looked really fast off that edge without the same results in terms of sack numbers, but sacks aren't necessarily the whole story. When you watch Bud Dupree jump off the page, but to have a guy like Khalil Mack, holy fuck.
You can't single team him. You can't double team him. You can't double team with a chip. He's beat 3 guys this year, so what do you do with him?
You, again, double team and pray for the best. At that point, it's, I'm going to run 3-step drops and out of the shotgun all game. That's it.
Well, the problem is that doesn't work because Hakeem Hicks pushes his guard back into the quarterback. Then he doesn't do as often as Matt gets there, but he does do that.
Well, but what I'm saying is you've got to go with the Tom Brady and Patriots offense against Khalil Mack and the Bears right now. It's like, we're just going to run short underneath routes nonstop all game long. If we throw it over 20 yards, our offense has failed. Like, this was not intentional. This was a complete accident, and it will not happen again.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I can see the Dolphins people trying to use that, but then again, Ronquan Smith has gotten better, faster. He's recognizing things quicker. Trevathan being Trevathan. Eddie Jackson's reading that thing a lot quicker too now, which is the key part.
Brock Osweiler, one of the all-time worst quarterbacks, was able to dink and dunk you guys to death.
Well, that was just a lot of missed tackling on our behalf.
I mean, but again, that's the whole point of that strategy is hope your receivers can make plays, let your running backs make plays, let the quarterback not fuck it up, and not let him get taken out of the game by being sacked, being hit, being off rhythm. It's been the Patriot strategy for 15 years. It's why I don't ever buy into the Tom Brady GOAT strategy, as much as I hate GOAT discussions anyways, because you're comparing people cross eras and different roles and different, like, you can't compare cross eras. Like, it's easy to look at stats and say, oh, look what he's done, or Tom Brady's won 5 Super Bowls, and that's the measure. Like, is it? Like, I mean, Bradshaw won 4, nobody ever had him in that GOAT discussion beforehand. Like, it's a convenient excuse to say, hey, we're close, so we're going to lead this way. Because really, I mean, 5-2 in the Super Bowls is fine, but it's a product of coaching. He's playing with the greatest coach in football history right now. Like, I think that's the advantage. But I think that's the whole strategy is we're just not going to take ourselves out of games. Right. We're going to dink, we're going to dunk, we're going to go underneath, we're going to make rhythm throws, we're going to make your team make plays just nonstop. And eventually 1 or 2 are going to break through. And that's all we need. Because even with the dink and dunks, it's basically going to act like a run game. We're going to eat plenty of clock. We're going to keep your defense on the field. We're not going to give up a ton of points because we're not playing that much defense. As long as the quarterback doesn't throw picks, it all works fine.
Yeah, I mean,
granted, with Khalil Mack, sometimes it still ends up with ball in his hand and you threw a pick. But, 6 of one, half dozen of another at that point. What are you going to do?
By the way, those picks, we talked about this a little earlier. That second-round pick that the Bears got back, that was highway robbery in return.
The second-round pick, even the late-round pick, it should have been just all the picks that the Raiders got should have just been it. There should have been no picks going back. Now, I understand that's not how trades work, and you can't go back. But, man, they should have conditioned some of those. Like, you only get the second if he doesn't hit certain performance measures. If he hits the performance measures, we get to keep our second. Like, you earned everything.
If he's not the defensive MVP, you can have your second back. Yeah, I get that.
I wouldn't even have done that here. A dozen sacks, or 20 forced, quarterback hurries, or there's all kinds of triggers you could have put in place. But
if Khalil Mack touches the football 12 times in the year, we get our second round pick back.
And mostly because I know it's next year, not this year, but if the Raiders don't improve that much and the Bears still look this good, which year to year in NFL is a lot of variation.
Right.
There may not be much gap between that first and that second, which becomes all the more hilarious because they didn't trade Khalil Mack to the Rams because they thought the Rams' first round pick wasn't going to be good enough. It's going to be too late. Now, and granted, there is a gap between the Bears and the Rams at this point. So
it's not that big of a gap.
But yeah, you're talking mid-20s to
24 to like 32 right now.
31, 32 to, with 30 if the postseason goes really wrong.
Right.
So it's not a big gap. So it's not as, it's like, yeah. On the other hand, does anybody want to imagine that Rams defense with Khalil Mack right now? Like, it may have been the highest scoring game in NFL history, but I accidentally made the mistake of leaving the Chiefs defense in on one of my fantasy. Oh no, they got me 11 points. Still, they gave up 54 points and still scored 11 because they had interceptions, forced fumbles, a defensive touchdown, if I'm not mistaken, along with the Rams defense. I can't remember which one it was. I had one of the two defenses, and then I looked at it. I was like, I probably ought to take them out. And then I was like, fuck. I had won the game already. It was my last player. They were done. I mean, I had it locked up. Unless they went negative 40, which just can't happen. But I was just like, gee.
If I'm not mistaken, Kansas City had one defense touchdown, and the Rams had two.
Yeah, it was for as much offense as there was. It was one of those weird stats somebody posted that the Bucs had more yards of total offense than the Chiefs did on Sunday. The Bucs had more yards than the Chiefs did Monday. The Chiefs scored 51 points. The Bucs scored 3. That's how weird the NFL can be. That's how numbers can, you can look at them and be like, why don't these two things add up? Now, some of it was just dumb luck, and I mean, some of it was the Bucs fumbling a touchdown right at the end zone. And
Mack wouldn't help the Rams. He can't cover anybody, and that's their weakest part.
On the other hand, if you have Donald coming up the middle and Mack coming off the edge,
don't forget Sue.
Exactly. Eventually, you just don't have time to get the ball out to throw to somebody. Don't have to worry about coverage if you can't throw. I mean, we saw Aaron Donald paw a ball for just like Khalil Mack can paw a ball and just, mine. It's not even going. Thanks for playing.
But when did Marcus Peters lose his ability to play quarterback? He looked so horrible.
That trade looked terrible for the Chiefs, by the way, when they made it.
Yes.
Like, we're trading Marcus Peters for a second rounder or something like that, second or third. It wasn't nearly high enough, in my opinion, and that it's just like he fell off the map.
Yes.
Aqib Talib has been hurt, which was to be expected. I mean, he's on the older side of.
But Marcus Peters was a number one corner. If you look at the Kansas City's other corner, I don't know who it was, but it was not better than Marcus Peters.
No, it was not. I don't know what happened, but it doesn't have to be a number one corner either. Really doesn't. So, you'll see.
Well, right this minute he does until Talib gets back. He needs to be the number one. They got to stop picking on him. Hey, the rookie on the other side, they're not going to pick on. We're going to pick on Marcus Peters because he couldn't cover Batman or Superman in a freaking phone booth.
I mean, I guess we'll see. But really, at this point for the Rams, the only thing that matters is being able to beat the Saints if they both stay healthy in the playoffs. That's kind of the future we're looking at over there. So it'll be an interesting case study, to say the least.
Yeah, I agree.
Whereas the AFC is getting muddier and muddier by the minute. And once looked so clear, now suddenly somehow the Ravens sneak back in to the playoffs at 5-5 right now, thanks to Lamar Jackson being a running back. I mean, he started at quarterback. When I saw he had 27 carries, I thought they just lined him up in the backfield for the game. I thought they tried to Taysom Hill him.
Well, you know what would have been perfect? Put both him and RG3 in the backfield together and just snap the ball to one of them.
Well, I think the problem is RG3 is not nearly as athletic as he once was. Two torn ACLs have slowed him down a little bit. It made it a little more tough for him to be that. So it's not as confusing as it could have been. But, yeah, I mean, I see where you're going with that. On the other hand, the Saints have already beat them anyways, when the Saints have had plays where they've had all three of their quarterbacks on the field now. So, I'm good. I've seen what I need to see. I mean, if we want to call Taysom Hill a quarterback, I mean, that's...
He's the heir apparent to Breeze if he ever retires.
I wouldn't bet on that.
That's what he says.
It's what he says. He's also a punt returner, too, so...
Tebow.
Well, he can actually throw a football, though. Let's not get crazy here. But, as I say, you don't trade for another quarterback if you think you have your heir apparent on the roster. They traded for another quarterback. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. True.
I think they just like what he brings as an all-around threat. And they're like, if guy give you a few snaps at quarterback every game, we're fine with that. I mean, you're going to run them most of the time. But we'll remind people you can throw, and we'll have Bridgewater and Breeze out there just to fuck with them. Like, what's going to happen? You don't know.
Unless Breeze takes a snap, they're not throwing the football. Unless Hill takes it, because I don't want to see Teddy Bridgewater throwing the ball still.
I do. He's looked good throwing it when he's had his opportunities. He looks like he's healthy again. I'm excited to see what Teddy Bridgewater brings to the table for somebody. And that might very well be somebody else. He may get an opportunity to start next year. So he may not come back to New Orleans. But I think New Orleans had to make that trade because you definitely didn't want to go into a season like this where this team looks this good and have a Breeze injury derail your whole season, because Taysom Hill is not taking you over the finish line. So I think that was a smart decision. I think they're a fun team to watch. And like I said, the NFC, you're really starting to get a clear picture of two teams emerging at the top of the pack, and then kind of a next tier. You've got Saints, the Rams, and everybody else.
My Bears are going to take both of them out.
I think you're a little ahead of your curve. I mean, your quarterback may have the most rushing yards in the NFL this year, but he's also going to miss Thursday Night Football this week because he's hurt.
I don't.
Because you know
I'm
why?
I'm not saying my offense is going to carry the team.
This isn't 2005. Rex Grossman's not walking through those doors.
I'm Chicago.
Brian Urlacher and Lance Briggs ain't walking through those doors. Your defense is not carrying you. Did you watch last year's Super Bowl at all?
Yeah.
Did you see a lick of defense played in that game?
No.
Exactly. Your defenses are not carrying teams to Super Bowls anymore.
I don't even carry me.
Is there any part of you that legitimately thinks that the Bears can hang with the Rams or that they can hang with the Saints?
I'll see in 2 weeks. We play the Rams, I think, in Chicago.
Yeah. And again,
if we win that game, what do you think?
I think nothing of it is going to be a cold weather game outside in a situation like you won't see in the playoffs.
You don't know that. We could be in Chicago if they lose another game.
You're not getting... You guys will lose another game at least this year. You guys will be a 3 seed.
I'm betting on that too.
Because the NFC East is that bad at this point. Because they're just bad.
I wouldn't expect to win, but I'm not going to say my team has no chance. I do have enough defensive power there. Things could happen. The ball flips our way a few times. A defense touchdown or two here. I mean, it's not impossible for us to win.
54. And 2 of those touchdowns, as you pointed out, were defensive touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Again, there is plenty of defensive talent to go around, and you have a quarterback that likes to run around and holds the football like a loaf of bread and does not know how to slide. How do you think Nottingham Sue would handle that?
I also have a quarterback that thinks he's Brett Favre.
Right. Again, how do you think Nottingham Sue's going to handle that? Let alone Aaron Donald. Let alone Dante Fowler. Let alone a healthy Aqib Talib in the playoffs.
We'll have to wait and see.
You'll have to wait and see. Yeah, that's what I thought. You'll have to wait and see.
Well, wait a minute. I guess my question to you is, what happens if their quarterback doesn't make it? What happens if Goff gets hurt? You're putting a whole lot of who's their backup?
Well, again, I wholeheartally agree that, yes, in Week 10 is really early, but I think at this point it's also safe to say there are 2 clear front runners. And
I'm saying I don't correct me completely off that. I can't beat one of them on any given day.
But the point I was trying to make, and the much more clear illustration that I was trying to make, is how clear the picture is in the NFC.
Right.
At this point, all things hold course. You have 2 clear front runners. Injuries to Breeze or Goff change that picture. Injury, and the AFC though, you have a muddled mess.
No, you got Kansas City, and then you got everything else.
I don't think you saw enough from Kansas City to say you trust them to stop that Pittsburgh offense right now. And
no, I don't. But you know they're in. You know they're in right now.
Right. That's not what I'm saying, though. You have a clear top 2 there in the NFC and then in everybody else.
Yeah.
In the AFC, you do not have a clear top right now.
Oh.
I think you can make a case for Kansas City.
Okay.
You can make a case for Pittsburgh.
Okay.
And you can always make a case for the Patriots.
Okay.
I think you also have a case where the Texans are starting to look a lot better. I think that a healthy Andrew Luck has the Patriots right nipping on the heels of the playoffs. And somehow it seems like San Diego, but they laid an absolute nothing burger against Denver this week. So again, one of the teams that everybody thought was just on the edge of being on that elite lost to a nobody.
Right.
This week. So, that's San Diego, I guess, a little premature. Mm-hmm. That's what my point is. That's how muddled, the AFC is compared to, like I said, if you want to add a third, I don't feel like they're there yet. I feel like they're a tier talent-wise below the other 2 teams.
I'm not going to disagree with that. It's just when you were doing that, being a Bears fan, you were completely disregarding my ability to have a chance in the game.
I think come the playoffs, if all teams are healthy, as they are now, like I'm not, not suddenly willing somebody back that's not or not expected to be back. Mm-hmm. But if the course holds, you're not on the field with the Rams or the Saints right now. I think you'll see some of that when you play the Rams again. I'll dismiss some of that because it's cold weather outdoors and it's not the Rams kind of game. And they're not going to have to play in that kind of weather in the playoffs, most likely. Because even if they're the 2 seed, then they go to New Orleans and play inside of a dome. And I think you're also going to have a different game when you play against Minnesota up in Minnesota in a couple weeks. So like I said, I don't feel like you're free and clear of not losing games yet. Don't you guys still have one with Green Bay left too?
Yeah. We all ass whooping in Chicago.
I'm just saying there is a history between Green Bay and you. No matter who the quarterback is, no matter what the records are, there is a history between Green Bay and Chicago, and it is a very one-sided recent history.
Well, it's also Week 17, so...
But it'll still see Bears v. Rodgers, Aaron, and the Wikipedia page might as well change the owner from the McCaskies to Rodgers, Aaron every time they play.
I need a soundboard. Can I have a perfect sound for this one? They can rip his fucking head off.
Yeah, They tried the first time. How'd that work out? He went away for a quarter and came back and still won the game on one leg. Again, Bears owner Rodgers, Aaron. It just is what it is.
I say the first game we had some errors. Second game we've improved. Packers also have come down. I mean,
they have, but they're still.
I still understand.
It's still Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
I don't think they were that good when they played you the first time. They're just not that good of a team this year.
No, it was all us. We made the mistakes that allowed him back in.
Well,
he hit my fucking quarterback Kyle Fuller in the hands on the last drive. If he catches the ball, game's over.
He does. Also, though, I don't think you're going to get the benefit of a Deshaun Kaiser interception touchdown for your own team this time either. So I wouldn't worry about too much about the Kyle Fuller one. Those things have a way to even themselves out. I'm just saying. It's +1, -1. You're all right.
But if you take ours one way from them, one way from us, we're still there. We still won. We only lost by 4. So if you take 7...
So if we take 7 away from you...
We only scored 3, didn't we, on their...
No, it was a pick 6.
Oh, no, it was the strip fumble we only scored 3 on. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
I forgot which one he returned for the touchdown. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. I fully understand. With Khalil Mack, the highlight plays have been very numerous this year, so it's hard to keep track. I think he really wanted to go out of his way to prove he earned his money, which you always have to be happy to see, because some of those guys disappear as quickly as they get their paychecks. I can't think of the guy that the Redskins signed a $100 million contract.
Albert Hainsworth.
But geez, how did he disappear? And everybody in the league knew he was going to do it. And Daniel Snyder still handed out $100 million to that man. Sometimes the right guy does the wrong thing and is hilarious to watch. I think that gets us through early season NFL. I think we are going to head into everybody's favorite segment now. And it's time for the headlines.
All right. First one we got here. Tiger and Phil. No, you're not watching it. No, the $9 million is not theirs. But they're each walking on the course with $200,000 to put side bets on the course.
No. That's $200,000 on the first hole.
2 on the first hole.
Just for Phil to birdie the first hole. Not.
No, they all had $200,000 for the rest of it. They're going to be making bets throughout the court.
No. I think they're making bets themselves beyond the money that they're giving them money. Because Tiger said he wanted to play for a month and made Phil uncomfortable. Phil said, "I'll bet you $100,000 I birdie the first hole." And Tiger's like, "Let's make it 2."
I did like the interview that he did. Phil Mickelson was, "Why'd you guys pick that?" Well, I want to make a number that felt both of us felt uncomfortable. Tiger was sitting there like, $200,000.
Like you saw what my divorce cost, right? Like, get the fuck out of here with that.
And then Phil, with being so Phil, takes out a stack of $100 bills out of his pet and says, "Here, Tiger, I think I owe you this $100."
Yeah, and you know what Tiger had to say?
Hit him with some good shit. Don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Because that's what he's going to do. Sorry. Even 80% of Tiger is better than Phil. And when he puts money on the line, get out of here, Phil. I'm not in the least bit interested by this. This has absolutely no interest for me. I'm not going to pay $20 to watch two guys play golf that I can watch play for a much more real, have watched for 15 years now, in one of the most one-sided rivalries in the history of sports. Like, no, not worth a waste of my money.
I am interested in the people who listen. Just leaving a comment somewhere if you paid the $20 to see it.
I want to know who those people are, because they're probably the same people when we had to make a trip to Walmart earlier this week to pick up some work boots for somebody's brother because he's an idiot. That I saw something that I completely flabbergasted me. But these are the same people, I'm sure, paying $20 to watch Tiger and Phil that bought the 2019 Road Atlas. Who the fuck buys a Road Atlas in 2019? It's called GPS. We all have it on our phone. Stop being dumb. Spending money on dumb shit. There's no chance that an Atlas is going to be a collector's item, particularly a 2019 Road Atlas, okay? It's going to have highways that we can all see on our phone and get real-time updates right away. Fuck out of here.
That's all the time you want to spend on Tiger and
Yeah.
Phil?
Oh, yeah. That was too much.
College football's top 4. Bama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Michigan. Who does not make it? And who does replace the person you've taken out?
So I already told you who I'm picking most likely to be taken out, because I already mentioned it, snuck it in earlier, which is Michigan. I don't think they get over the Ohio State. As bad as this Ohio State team is, I don't think they get over the Ohio State hurdle. Who would I like to see replace them? I've got 2 candidates I would like to see replace them. Neither one will replace them, by the way. First one is Washington State. They are playing some of the most electric football in college football right now, and it's getting minimized, A, because they're in the Pac-12, which is hot garbage this year, but so is the ACC, and everybody's impressed by what Clemson's done against less than nobody. And 2, the NCAA is never going to reward the Pirate. They are going out of their way to make sure that man stays buried in irrelevance. And there's a perfect clip of him a year ago, so before his team was even really in the discussion for it, talking about somehow rec league softball teams can figure out a 16-team tournament. You're telling me the NCAA, billion-dollar NCAA can't? Get out of here. So, again, anybody who advocates for a true playoff, not a +1 game, but a true playoff, has my support. 2, longtime fan of the Pirate, going way back to Texas Tech. Big fan of the man. So that is one I would love to see there. Won't happen. The second one is UCF.
Nope.
If you go 2 seasons undefeated, first off, it shouldn't have to be a legacy award, but you go 2 straight seasons undefeated, you should at least get one chance to play for a real national title, as opposed to having to claim an Alabama mythical national title again. Oh, yes, Alabama, don't forget. Ooh, that was loud and pop. Sorry, people. Didn't mean to get that loud. But Alabama has claimed several mythical national championships in their history, too, so they get no right to talk to UCF like, oh, that doesn't really count. Research it and see how many years after they won, air quotes, their national championships, they actually tried to claim them. It wasn't like UCF's where they claimed it right away and made their stake. And in the record book, by the way, the official NCAA record book, it does show UCF as being a co-national champion last year. Because all you have to win by NCAA rules is any one of the official polls. And they went on one of the computers that was the official poll, one of the official polls of the BCS, and then you claim it.
Wow.
So if they won the computer poll, they claimed it, they are a co-national champion. Alabama, just remember that. Co-national champions last year. That's what you get for all those years where you were playing for national titles where you shouldn't. See, what was it, 2009 when LSU beat you in Tuscaloosa and then had to play you again 2 weeks later for not actual weeks, but 2 weeks later for a national championship? No, you are already eliminated. That was then proof that the regular season was meaningless in college football when you could lose your next to last regular season game, not win your conference, and when there were only 2 teams playing for the BCS championship, play for the BS championship, because that's really what it was. Who do I think will go? Really depends. I could see if Oklahoma wins out, they're probably the next in.
Boo.
I mean, it's the right it's the real answer though.
Right.
There's always going to be a case for Ohio State if they win out and win the Big Ten. They always seem to sneak in at 4 as well. I mean, because if Clemson
they dropped this week though.
They did, but they beat Michigan, win the Big Ten. All of a sudden, they're in. Particularly because there is a case to be made that Clemson has a chance to lose one of their next 2 games. They're not as good as they've looked. They've just played really bad teams.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, Clemson's got about the same track record Alabama does. Who the hell's Alabama beat? LSU? Who's LSU beat? Kentucky's ranked 17th. They got mud stomped by Tennessee, who's going to have to win this week to get to 6-6 to be bowl eligible. So clearly, Kentucky's not really the number 17 team in the country. It is just, once again, the overinflation of SEC teams in the rankings. There gets to be the circular logic. The SEC is good, so we have to rank these teams high. Are they?
SEC's not good.
Who've they ever beat? Their bowl records are always mediocre.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, well, that's just because there was a letdown. They didn't really care as much. Why? These are still kids playing a game. I get tired of that logic that, like, UCF only beat Auburn because Auburn let down. No. First off, that was a really good game. It's not like UCF wouldn't beat the brakes off of Auburn, but they did beat Auburn, who beat Alabama last year. Second off, I don't think Auburn wanted to be the SEC team that lost to UCF, and so I hate that logic. It's time we have that real discussion. SEC football ain't as great as y'all make it out to be. But yeah, I think there's a chance that there's 2 spots up for grabs, and I could easily see, like I said, Clemson has a tough one against Pitt, and you get UCF. Well, one of the criteria is like opponents, and we beat Pittsburgh by way more than Notre Dame did. Calm down, UCF. You're not a red circle game, okay? Anybody can say anything they want about Notre Dame over all the years. It's been 30 years since they won the last national championship. The NBC TV deal's not as special because all the games are on TV now. Yeah, but Notre Dame's on coast to coast still. They're not regionalized. They're not, here, there, or everywhere. They have 7 games every year, guaranteed. Sole national spotlight. Coast to coast, around the world, streaming. And you best believe that tradition still means a lot in college football because they are a red circle game. Same way Alabama is for a lot of their opponents right now. But for Notre Dame, it's always been the case. They are a red circle game everybody they play. There's a reason why their games tend to be closer than other like opponents. UCF, I know you're undefeated a year and a half. Pittsburgh did not get up for your game. They got up for Notre Dame. They knew they were on national TV that game. So, sorry, that doesn't impress me. I think you have a case to play. I think you should be the 4th team in right now. But I don't get to make those decisions. I think undefeated is undefeated, and it should matter.
Agreed. Next one, you still got more rant to go.
No, I think that's good. I think we all know I hate the college football playoff +1 game. I think they're sitting need to beat that home.
Joey Logano wins his NASCAR's title. That's what I figured, but I want to throw it out there.
I'm over this. This is part of why NASCAR is not relevant anymore to even long-term fans like me. I grew up watching it every Sunday. I didn't even watch but maybe a few laps of the championship. I don't care because it's not a championship. It wasn't. They diminished the championship when they went to the chase because we want to have, tight, exciting championships at the end of the year. You did before, too, under the old format where you had to be excellent all season long and every single race mattered. And points you lost early in the season meant something at the end. Now that points don't mean shit, period, you've handed a championship to somebody who missed half of a season already once. You have somebody like Joey Logano, who was maybe the 5th best driver this year, walk off with the championship because he won the last race at a 1.5 mile cookie cutter. Again, the chase diminished it when you went to 5 or 6 out of the 10 championship races were 1.5 miles. And then this year, in the last 4 or 5 years, now you've made it one race on 1.5 mile track. Determine who's the champion? No. It was always supposed to be about season-long excellence. It was supposed to be about consistency. Sorry that somebody was boring and consistent and ran away with it. You didn't celebrate the excellence. I look at NASCAR and Matt Kenseth for that year the same way I look at Dana White and some of the struggles he has with some of his fighters. I'm sorry, you can't market excellence. That's your failure, not the excellence. The excellence is not a failure. Your failure to market excellence is the failure. If you couldn't market a guy who was consistent week in, week out, and was whooping the competition everywhere he went, he only had 1 or 2 wins. Who cares? He could be in the top 5 every week, and that's impressive in NASCAR then. It should be impressive now, but it doesn't mean shit. You wanted to make wins so important that you've now turned off a large chunk of your fan base because it's meaningless, it's irrelevant. You wanted to have a playoff format to compete against the NFL. Hasn't worked for you, has it?
Nope.
Tracks still sit pretty empty. I mean, that's a byproduct of overbuilding at the peak, but yeah. It's meaningless. I don't recognize Jimmy Johnson's 7 championships. I don't recognize this one, just like I don't recognize Kurt Busch's or, it's a different thing when Martin Truex wins last year because he dominated the entire season. Congratulations, your best driver won, but it was a fluke. If it wasn't for a late caution, he would have lost to Kyle Busch last year. Martin Truex would have won this year. I'd have been okay with it. He was one of the 3 most dominant drivers you're in. It wasn't like last year where he was the dominant driver, but, this year he's one of the 3. It was him, Kevin Harvick, and Kyle Busch who won all the races.
Okay.
Sorry about that. Hey Siri kicked on. I don't know why, but hopefully that wasn't too loud for you guys. But yeah, it's why I don't watch. I don't know what the ratings are. I'm sure they were very down in the first year post Dale.
Oh yeah, I definitely guarantee that.
But yeah, no. Next,
Warriors drama: Kevin Durant, Draymond Green.
I think. First off, I always got Draymond because Kevin Durant has to be a caricature of a human being every time he opens his mouth. The man gets fined for heckling a fan and then says it's weak and soft for a grown man to heckle at a professional sporting event. No, you know what's weak and soft, Kevin Durant? To have burner accounts when you're a multi-millionaire NBA account. That's weak and soft. You know what's weak and soft? To respond to a heckler and by calling them weak and soft. Because what that means is they effectively got under your skin. Not just so much that you responded in the moment, but that you then took it home with you and thought about it and felt the need to voice what a heckler was to you on a sports interview. That's the weak sauce. I'm Draymond all day because, again, you would run to one of those 2 outside of the NBA court. Which one are you afraid of?
Oh, definitely Draymond.
Exactly. So, yeah, I'm Team Draymond all the way.
I understand as a fan. You're the owner. Who do you got?
Team Draymond. You know why? I know what I've got in Draymond Green when I'm surrounded with Steph Curry. I don't know what I have in Kevin Durant without Steph Curry.
Okay.
Or without Draymond. Draymond makes a lot more of that team click than people give him credit for because he doesn't need touches to be successful. He does all that little dirty work. He's their version of a Dennis Rodman.
Okay.
I mean, and he may not be quite as good as Dennis Rodman. That's tough with the way Dennis Rodman could rebound a basketball. but he does things that Dennis Rodman couldn't do either. But he's that kind of glue guy where he doesn't need a lot of touches. He's willing to do the dirty work. He's willing to ruffle feathers as well. He's willing to get the other team a little fired up and out of their game. And then he's going to let Steph Curry. Like, yeah, sure. You want to take 30 shots and knock yourself out? Because Steph Curry is really the man who drives that team.
True. But in reality, who's going if one of them has to go?
I think Kevin Durant will be the one to go.
I think you're smoking the wrong stuff, dude.
I think
he'll choose Kevin Durant over Draymond Green every day of the week and twice on Sunday.
I think Kevin Durant was already leaving at the end of this year. I think that's part of why Draymond's doing his best to make sure he gets realized how soft and Sherman-y soft he is this year. Because without Draymond, I think that's a very different team every year in the playoffs. Kevin Durant is probably the second best player in the league right now. Probably. And he works great in that system as a complementary piece. And he's great to pick up when Steph's having a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
But there comes a time. He's never been the guy to carry a team to a championship. He had a chance to take out this Warriors group. He had a 3-1 lead. Couldn't get it over the hump.
Yeah, you're right.
And then he tries to blame Russell Westbrook on his way out. Again, that was weak and soft too. I think we're seeing a pattern here with Kevin Durant. A lot of it's weak and soft. I'm just saying.
Don't get his mama mad at you.
I don't give a shit about his mama. She might be the real MVP because he's Sharmany soft. He ain't. Nah. He's a guy who is going to be a best as a number 2. But I think if you have to make the decision between playing Klay Thompson or him, you're paying Klay. I think you're going to get Draymond for a little less than the maximum, which I think will help because I don't think you want to carry 4 maximums. I don't even think you want to carry 3 maximums. At some point, payroll does become an issue. I don't care how many championships you win. There is a reality to paying $350 million a year in payroll.
Right.
And luxury tax combined,
Mm-hmm. I think we got that one. I got another basketball one coming towards you. J.R. Smith. Go home, collect your check until we find something to do with you. What's your take?
Love it. My man JR can sit there with his shirt off drinking Henny all day long now. JR can live his best life. I mean, I'm surprised by how bad the Cavs have been. Some of that has been Kevin Love being hurt pretty much all season. And I think at this point they're steering into the tank, and that they should. Why try to fight for mediocrity? Why run J.R. Smith out there just so you could say, well, hey, we're trying to win more games? No. I mean, you'll find somebody to take him because, again, on the right team, he's a good fit. Just on a bad team, he's a bad fit. He really is. He's got to be in a competitive situation. He's got to be on a situation where he's the 4th or 5th guy. If you ask him to be any more than that, bad things happen, both on and off the court. And we're seeing it again.
Yeah.
It is nothing new from him. It's okay. There are plenty of cases of guys who are great 4th and 5th guys who help you win championships that just are not guys who should be number 2s or number 3s. And we're also seeing the train wreck that was GM LeBron James. For all the people want to give LeBron all this credit, well, he also handed out a lot of these, wanted a lot of these big contracts handed out and a lot of his guys paid. And the minute he's not there to hold it all together, it looks terrible. Because those guys should have never got that money.
Oh, yeah, no.
Iman Shumpert looks terrible, even though, he's in a good fit for him in Sacramento because they don't need him to score, so he can go out there and shut down the wing. Great. You do you. But you're being paid a lot of money to do it.
Right.
J.R. Smith. Tristan Thompson. Even the Cavs tried so hard to draw that line this in, and they went right down to the last day, and they still buckled like a belt. And they're going to regret that every minute of the last year and a half of that contract because they're going to pay out every dime of it too.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that looks terrible. Like, he was never that important of a guy. He was just a guy. And that's the thing is, Miami was in a bad situation post LeBron, but not so bad because they didn't let themselves get bogged down in long-term money. Mm-hmm. And now...
Well, they caught a break with Chris Bosh, too. They had some long-term money there. It just disappeared. Well,
but that was also a product of we wanted to keep Chris Bosh at this point that we lost LeBron. His contract ended at the same time. He opted out at the same time. So in theory, they could have walked away from that table. They just chose to. They kind of saved Houston to let Houston get Chris Paul, although we can talk about the wisdom of that later on in Chris Paul's track record. But no, I think JR gets to live JR life, and He'll probably end up somewhere like Philadelphia or Houston, where he'll be just perfect. Here, stand there, jack up threes, and it'll be great.
All right. Are we done with JR?
Yeah, we're done with JR for now till he returns.
All right. Marcus Fultz. All right. Did I get his first name right? I don't know. Fultz.
Marquez.
Not playing until he sees his shoulder specialist again.
Even if it wasn't for the burner counts, Brian Colangelo should be fired for being so insistent on needing Markelle Fultz.
And giving up another pick to get him?
You are among the worst GMs in the history of the NBA for that. Somehow thinking you had figured out a trick to short-circuit the process. Does that team look better today with Jason Tatum?
Oh, yes.
No, I don't think you get Jason Tatum at 3, by the way.
Okay.
I think they still get Markelle Fultz at 3.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the bigger issue is you gave up a pick for a player you were getting at 3. I think the Celtics is zeroed in on Jason Tatum being the best player in the draft. Mm-hmm. I think Danny Ainge was not bluffing at all when he said he knew exactly who he was taking, and he was getting him at 1 or 3, and it didn't matter because he knew who the Sixers were going, and everybody knew the Lakers were taking Lonzo Ball.
Yeah.
Like that was the reality. That was their guy. Even with Markelle Fultz there, they were going to take Lonzo Ball. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Rest in peace, Brian Colangelo and all your wife's burner accounts. I will miss those days so much. Long live Sam Hinkie in the process. He would have never fucked up. Because, again, if the minute Markelle Fultz wasn't looking right, he sat him down for the year. Like, here, take the whole year off. Don't try to rush back. Don't worry about it. Get it figured out. We'll see you in another year. We'll let you run for Rookie of the Year next year. He did it twice. One player, he basically sat out 2 whole seasons before he suited up. Because he understood. That's the thing. The genius of Sam Hinkie is not in tanking and acquiring all these extra picks, but it was in understanding that you don't need to rush players back. It was, we're better off letting them sit out a whole year and then have a rookie season 2.0. We're going to give up a year of on-court performance for hopefully 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years. Because at this point, we'll probably never see the right Markelle Fultz again. Whatever happened with his shot and his shoulder, it is broken. It is broken badly. And it may never get fixed.
Yeah. Unfortunately for him, I agree. There's nothing. That thing looks the ugliest thing I've seen him shoot free throws. He's throwing the ball around like a hot potato.
Yep. Brian Colangelo. Fuck you. That's all I gotta say. Like, this is what happens when the NBA tries to stick their nose in the team business. Like, I get it. It was not great for the other 29 owners that their attendance was bad, that this team was bad. But they were getting ready to turn the corner. And to chase Sam Hinkie out right before it pays off, nah.
Agreed. But it's all about the dollar, and he was costing them money.
No. Next.
We're going to go baseball a little bit here.
There's baseball?
Yeah. Your team. Cubs.
Haven't even seen much hot stove yet.
Pitching coach resigns.
I think we've seen with this team that there was going to be a lot of coaching staff turnover this year. I think anytime you let a manager who's done what Joe Madden's done go into his last year of his deal with no assurance of a new deal, you're going to see a lot of coaching staffs look for other opportunities and not want to be part of that instability of a last season. It's not a surprising turn of events. It is another reason that I'm never going to be a Theo Epstein guy. The Cubs won a World Series, but I'm not a Theo Epstein guy. Like, congratulations, you hit a few draft picks. Every break in the world went right for you in 2016. You had the right matchups. It was better to have the Giants for 3 than 7.
Correct.
The Dodgers were just spent at that point, by the time we got to them. Mm-hmm. They only had one real starter healthy at that point. Rich Hill wasn't even 100% going by that time. And then you got to the Indians, who were missing their number 2 and number 3 starters down the stretch.
I don't care how they got it. We still won it.
We did.
I'm going to celebrate the fuck out of it.
Absolutely. I had a blast. I bought a ton of merch. Still have a bunch of swag. I'm okay with that. But to pretend that suddenly now that same manager who navigated that, who, went to 3 out of 4 NLCSs. Yeah, the offense struggled this year. Yeah, does his unconventional lineups, his inconsistent lineups probably play a role in that? Yeah, probably. But you also don't win a World Series with a different manager. And you also can't expect a coaching staff to stay with uncertainty. These guys, don't want to see their life uprooted any more than they have to.
Right.
Joe Madden already is not a young guy in the game of baseball.
That was my thinking. Is part of it maybe him thinking about retiring? And
no, I think he's really wanted another contract.
I mean, but they haven't even talked. His people haven't talked to Theo. Theo hasn't talked to him.
Theo's made it clear they're not doing an extension. I
understand that, but that was the one he was asked.
So why put that call out? Why, if you're Joe Madden's people, why would you put that call out if it's been made clear to you there's not going to be an extension? Then we
want to know.
Then you just look desperate. Trust me, they know what's on the table and what's not.
Okay.
If the Cubs wanted to extend him, they would make sure he knew. There would be no vagueness. There would be no ambiguity, and it shouldn't happen.
Well, I guess, could I correlate this with Theo's contract and the ownership dragging him out to the very... Actually, didn't his contract extend?
No, he still had over a year left on his.
No, he had 5 years. He was there for 5 years.
And he got extended in year 4.
I'll have to go back and look at it. I thought they were making that correlation.
No.
I swear that I thought... I might be wrong with that one, but I thought...
Or maybe it was into the 5th season, but it wasn't long into the season.
Yeah, it was in that 5th year.
But that should have nothing to do with it. This has nothing to do with it. It has everything to do with Theo Epstein doesn't feel like he's getting enough credit.
He's not the GM.
Because he always felt like he should have got more credit in Boston than he did, and he feels like he should be getting more credit now.
But he's not the GM.
No, he's not, but most people don't realize Jed Hoyer's the GM. Anyways.
I forgot his name, but I knew I knew there was a GM there.
And most people don't know who Jason McLeod is. But again, most people don't realize how bad, like, for every trade that went right while the Cubs were rebuilding, once they were contending, every trade has gone just as bad against the Cubs. I mean, other than Cole Hamels, although that's still a lot of money locked up for this year on an older pitcher now. Because he basically painted you into a corner where you had to pick it up. Because, again, you're not sure what you're getting out of $21 million, 6-year, $126 million contract that you just signed last year to Yu Darvish.
But Goheim, he pitched well enough to get that contract extended. I mean, to get that picked up.
But if Yu Darvish is healthy, there's no chance you carry that extra $20 million in this free agency class.
You're probably right. Yeah.
I'm 100% right. I'm not probably right. I'm 100% right. They would have rolled Yu Darvish, Hendricks, Lester, Smiley at $5 million as opposed to $20 million at Cole Hamels.
Didn't they lose Smiley?
They traded Smiley after they picked up Hamels.
Okay.
Because they had him for a 2-year, $10 million deal.
Okay.
But they traded him so they could free up some money because now they're going to have some hard decisions on some of these, tender, non-tender guys and trying to trade some of these guys before they're being paid too much for what they're actually producing.
I think there will be big changes in our outfield this year.
But you can guarantee on one certain, Jason Hayward, he ain't going anywhere.
Oh, no, I don't want him going anywhere.
Oh, I don't either, but again, he's not worth what he's being paid either. There's probably only one free agent you can say that Theo Epstein signed that has earned every penny he's been paid so far, and that's John Lester.
I got 3.
You're going to say Ben Zobrist, I'm going to remind you before the second year of his contract, he was absolutely awful.
I was going to say, but I have a third one. David Ross.
Minimum guys don't count.
Okay.
First off, his impact was more emotional than actual impact. 2 off, minimum guys don't count.
Okay.
And again, he was there because of John Lester, not because of Theo Epstein. Let's just be honest.
Okay, yeah, you have a very solid point there. He was there because John Lester said, "I'll sign your contract, but he has to come with it."
Yep. That was the part and parcel of that one. I mean, that was it. So, no,
I think you're a little harsh on Zobrist. I mean,
no, year 2 was bad.
I'm not saying year 2 was bad, but he's not crashed like the other free agents he signed.
No, but he's also not been very consistent. He can't play consistently anymore. Even last year, he could only play 2 games and had to sit out. Like, this was a guy who couldn't play consistently. We had to trade for David Murphy to get more contact in the lineup because Ben Zobrist couldn't play consistently enough because he's at that age. If you're paying somebody $18 million per, they should be able to play more days than not. It shouldn't be 2 days on, 1 day off, or 2 days on, 2 days off.
But you knew when he signed that contract, you were signing for the first 2 years.
Well, I understand that. And year 2 was awful.
Yes, it was.
It was awful.
One
Again,
thing that makes it somewhat plausible or pliable is he did look better in year 3.
right, and it's over after this year. Yeah. But again, now you're tied up a lot more money in 2018, 2019 payroll when you have the opportunity to add an impact bat that you probably can't add now. Name rhymes with Bryce Harper. So to me, it's Starlin Castro fit better.
Oh, yes, he would have. Oh, God, he would have.
So, it's one of those where it's like, hey, we need somebody who we can make versatile. Oh, wait, we already have Javi Baez, but we didn't trust him. Oh, wait, we should have trusted him earlier. Who, again, probably wouldn't be on this roster right now if it wasn't for Joe Madden. So, and again, I think Theo's probably gets tired of hearing that all the time. Mm-hmm. Again, it comes back to ego. It's ego. It's one of those things you'll hear about in sports time and time again. And executives have just as much ego as coaches / managers, just as much ego as players.
I don't think Jed Hoyer has an ego.
I'm sure somewhere there's going to come a day where he wants a executive vice president or vice president of baseball operations position as well.
Well, just create another job for him. I mean,
well, no, I think he's going to legitimately want to run. I mean, you would have to think. I mean, there are some people who realize they're better when they're around smart groups of people, and they're fine with that. And yeah, I would say his ego is not, but I would say we'll find out someday soon if he wants to splinter off.
Right.
Because there have been other guys from that front office. Didn't McLeod finally leave? Or didn't he interview for some positions?
He interviewed. I don't know if he left still.
But, I mean, there comes a point in time where you don't just want to be second fiddle if you're in that role. I mean.
True.
And I think being constantly reminded that your manager may have more to do with your success than you, the GM, does irk you a little bit.
I don't know. I think Jed Hoyer is just happy collecting his paycheck. He sits there, does a job that he really doesn't do.
Well, again, I was referencing back to Joe Madden getting more credit than Theo for the winning the World Series and holding the team together. And
you said GM.
I said manager more than the GM.
Yeah, but I'm saying Theo's not the GM.
Well, yeah, he is. Can we stop playing that game? Like, I get it. Yes, Jed Hoyer's the name is on GM title, but
all right, I think we spent enough on that one. We'll go back to college football here. Houston's Ed Oliver, coach. And what the hell's the coach's name? I forgot to write it down. Played quarterback, Applewhite.
Major Applewhite. I was going to let you struggle with that one for a while.
Can I get a coat? Can I get a coat?
No, absolutely not. And you know what I saw? A proof of another paycheck player right there. Would I be taking Ed Oliver in the top 5? Hell no, after I saw that. He ain't hurt. He's just not wanting to risk getting hurt at the end of the college football season. And because the minute they tried to take that coat from him or told him he could take it, oh man, did he look fully healthy and ready to go.
Well, hasn't it been the last 4 weeks? Not even the end. It's been 4 weeks, I thought they said.
Well, that's what I mean. I think he did tweak something.
Yeah.
Got a little hurt and panicked.
Well,
it's like, no, I agree with Major Applewhite. No, I'm building a program here. I'm not the last ass clown here who's getting called out on Twitter by Urban Meyer's headache on a daily basis. So no, we're not playing this game. I'm not having an Aaron Hernandez Jr. on my record. Sorry. No, team Major Applewhite all day on that one. Now again, there's the case. Well, why doesn't Houston have enough coats? I don't care. You're in Houston in the first place. It ain't that cold. And second off, you have every opportunity to play. You have every opportunity to be healthy, and you looked very healthy in that moment. Took 2 coaches to restrain you.
And he's playing this week.
Shocker.
And I think you said something I don't think is 100%. I don't think they said they didn't have enough coats. He just wasn't allowed to since he didn't dress to have the coat.
Well, yeah, right. Well, again, that goes back to do you or do you not have enough coats for all your players? Why would the dressed players be the only ones who have coats? If well, I get it. It's meant to be a, hey, if you dress, you get a coat. If you're
technically, he shouldn't have been there. He didn't dress. He should have stayed his ass back in Houston.
Well, no, you can take players on the sidelines and things like that. That's not an issue. You see it from time to time.
I understand time to time, but
and I thought they were in Houston. I thought they were at home.
I thought they were on the road.
No.
Okay.
I didn't pay that much attention, didn't really care that much about the story then. Don't really now. Just other than you're building a program, you're setting a standard, set the standard. I'm fine with that.
All right. We got 3 left. There's college football, an NFL, and an NBA. Which one do you want to go for?
Go college football, NFL, NBA in that order.
College basketball, I'm sorry, not football.
That's fine. Same order.
Okay. What was the order again?
College basketball, NFL, NBA.
Okay. Exactly. I didn't write it down. Can anyone beat Duke?
Yes.
Who?
Absolutely. First off, it's two weeks into the season. So at some point, injury has the potential to befall. Second off, if the team with the Brow and John Wall and that Kentucky murderers row got beaten, anybody can be beaten. I think people forget that this is college basketball and everybody is beatable. It may not even be a team you're predicting right now, but everybody is beatable in college basketball. Duke is 3 people deep right now. The 3 best players in college basketball. Don't get me wrong; they will probably be the top 3 picks in the NBA draft in that order, and it may be the NCAA that sacks Duke eventually. Because now that the FBI stuff is free and clear to go after, if the only championship you strip from Louisville is going to be hell to pay. Because we all know Duke and North Carolina and Kentucky were named in that report, by the way. I know you don't want to basically erase every championship from the last decade. So that gets to be the question. Can you take Louisville's and not everybody else's? Pretty hard to do. So I think you're going to end up in a situation where you have to either take them all or give back Louisville theirs, or just admit that, again, you're a scumbag organization and you're ran by scumbags and you have no business being in charge of amateur sports.
They're going to go with the scumbag option.
It's the NCAA. They always go with the scumbag option. That's why I don't get to have NCAA football for my PS4, because rather than pay the kids just a little bit of money for their likeness and jersey numbers and that, after they graduate, by the way, it doesn't even have to be why they're in school. The money had to sit in a trust till they graduate. They're still scumbagging it up and saying, nope, we're not going to do it, because we'd have to give them a little something. That's how awful the NCAA is. But yeah, everybody is beatable in college basketball. There's a reason the last team to go undefeated was, 1978? 77?
It was that Hoosiers team. I don't know which one it was.
It was in the late 70s. It's been 40,
I wasn't born yet. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's been 40 years since the last undefeated team. It's a very rare occurrence. I don't care how good the players are on your team. I don't care how good your team is. I don't care how good your coach is. It's always one game you don't take serious enough against a good enough team with just enough talent that sneaks off a December win, a la Indiana beating that Kentucky monster with the Watt shot. It happens every year.
Follow-up question on Duke. Zion Williams, 30 or 40?
What?
Years old.
Oh, that dude's 20. 20, and I'd want him for my NBA franchise tomorrow. I even was tweeting with, I shouldn't say tweeting with, but I got a retweet and a comment back from the kid Miro yesterday about Zion and Chris Stapps playing in New York together next year, because that's really what us basketball fans deserve. I want to see the Alabaster Unicorn and Zion play together in the Garden. As a Bulls fan, I should want Zion for myself.
Yes.
But I really want R.J. Barrett a little bit more anyways, because the last thing the Bulls need is another post player that doesn't really play in the post well.
All right. I still think the man looks about 30 years old. Sorry.
I mean,
he's got more wrinkles on his forehead than I do.
He's like a more defined LeBron James at their age.
Right.
It's crazy to think about. All right, next.
This was more of a funny one from the NFL. It's the anniversary of the butt fumble. 5 years.
Again, whammy! That just deserves a whammy because that's so bad. I don't give a shit about the butt fumble. You know that. Why would I care about one of the most irrelevant plays in the NFL? It's become some subculture highlight that has absolutely nothing to do with it. Like, great, Mark Sanchez was bad. He was bad the whole time. Great, that Jets defense for a couple years carried them to 2 AFC Championships games. Congratulations. Thanks for playing. Next.
All right. This one kind of caught me off guard when I seen it. Gordon Hayward coming off the bench for the Celtics. What do you read into that? Health? Not fit? What?
Well, I think it's a combination of A and B. I think it's an A, a B, and a C. I think some of it is he's still working his way back to healthy. I think you saw that with Paul George, where he got to start a little sooner because of the timing of his injury. He got to kind of play the last little bit of the season before to knock off some rust and then have a full offseason. Gordon Hayward, I guarantee you, did not have a full offseason. So he's still knocking rust off. He's still playing back into shape. He never played with these guys. Mm-hmm. And then you had a group that developed without him and without Kyrie, really. But Kyrie's just enough of alpha where Gordon's not, so he doesn't have to demand the ball. So you're seeing some fit issues. And I think you're just seeing, again, missing an entire season of basketball is tough. And it's tough to find your place, and it's tough to find your rhythm. And there's just so much talent on that Boston roster on the perimeter in those wing positions anyways, that you could afford to say, hey, you know what? Maybe it'll be better for your development and our long-term prognosis as a team and where we're heading if we put you as the sixth man for a while and let you just come in and go apeshit and score all the time. And you don't have to think about passing and fit and deferring to Kyrie and all these things. Let's let you work your way back against the second team defense and jack up some shots and lead the offense and do the things you're used to doing instead of asking you to defer until you're back to 100%, which may not be till post All-Star break, potentially.
Okay. Do you see him being on the Celtics past this year?
I do.
Okay, you don't think they'll trade him?
No, I think he's going to be a hard one to trade.
You don't think he'll get disgruntled?
I don't think so.
No?
I think he went there understanding that this was something that could happen. That that he wasn't necessarily guaranteed to be.
Not the man, but he did. I assume he went there thinking he would at least start.
Well, but again, I think as positionless basketball is becoming more important, I think starting is becoming less important. I think people are going to pay more attention to who finishes than who starts.
Ask Carmelo Anthony.
And Carmelo's another. Carmelo's a throwback of an NBA player, anyways, in kind of all the worst ways that somebody can be a throwback player. But no, I don't see Gordon Hayward being that kind of problem. Because him and Brad Stevens have a long enough relationship. I got a hunch this didn't happen. This wasn't just thrown at him one day. I'm sure it was part of a discussion about what's best for his long term, their long term, etc. I don't think it was just, here you go, you're going to the bench and deal with it. This is an organization that's been well ran by Danny Ainge every chance they've had. Even when they traded their players, their veteran players away, they did so in a way that the veteran players didn't mind as much as they could have otherwise because they didn't want to stay for a rebuild. So, no, I think he'll be fine. I think it's a good move. I think it gives both parties a chance to see what they're capable of, and again, it gives him more time to work himself back in to basketball.
Okay. Well, that's my headlines. We had a few of them that were covered during the normal session, so.
And I know usually headlines is kind of where we end the show, and I know we're already at like an hour 20, give or take, with this episode, but that has been 3 weeks, and kind of my last episode was all about Derrick Rose's 50-point game. I think I would be remiss not to point out that if you haven't been paying attention, Derrick Rose has played really consistently well all season. Like, he followed that 50 up with 30, 30, 20, 20. He's averaging 19, 4.5, 3. He's shooting almost 47% from the field. He is shooting 47% from 3, which we're still a little early in the season, but we're getting a little past the small sample size. I don't think he's a 47% three-point shooter, but he's also not a high volume. He's still only averaging about 2.5, 2.8 threes a game. So I think it's a case of, A, he's fully healthy. His legs are back under him. He's taking smart threes. And again, you're seeing him perform at a level, again, not necessarily an all-NBA level, but you're seeing him at something close to an all-star level. And it's not going to get talked about in the in the Western Conference just because of how deep the West is. But I feel like there's always a part where we should at least talk a little Derrick Rose and do a little follow up. I'm glad, as a guy who loved to watch Penny Hardaway and watch that fall apart, and Grant Hill and watch that fall apart, and Tracy McGrady and that fall apart to injuries. It's kind of nice to see a guy kind of be at the abyss and pull himself back at least some. I mean, if he could play this way all season, I don't see him being in Minnesota on a minimum deal next year.
Oh, no.
I mean, he'll never be a max guy again, but he should be more than a minimum guy if he can be 18, 20 points a night, 40, even 38% from three as a secondary playmaker.
The little devil on my shoulder is telling me to piss Jason off here with this topic. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So with that latest comment, you're telling me Garpax mid-read another situation where they got rid of Rose when they probably should have got rid of Butler first?
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Not only that, I'm not going to give him the desired response of being angry
I
or
already
going
seen it on
on,
his face,
going
so
on a Garpax rant. I think that summed it up quite perfectly. Yes, that is quite possibly the dumbest response to that situation I could have ever heard. Yes, at that time, the right decision was to trade Derrick Rose. He was at a point where he was injured and being paid a lot and wasn't close to coming back. He then went through a couple more injuries. Again, the whole problem with that intermediate period between Derrick Rose and the rebuild with Jimmy Butler was not having faith in Nikola Mirotic and building around those two. That's where they messed up. Trying to do the three alphas was a mistake. Hanging on to Taj Gibson longer than they should have was a mistake. Trading up 2 first-rounders to go get a three-point specialist who can't create his own shot in this NBA was a mistake. Trading Derrick Rose before Jimmy Butler was not a mistake. It is one of the few things that Garpax did right. It is one of the few things I will give them credit for. But again, it was one of those incredibly short-sighted things, because then they took a guy who could have played a secondary point role like Jerry Grant, who could shoot threes and play off ball while Jimmy Butler dominated the ball, and immediately went and found somebody to take his spot by the name of Rajon Rondo, who can't shoot at all. And by at all, I mean at all.
Well, then they went and got your guy, Dwayne Wade, too.
Dwayne Wade 5 years too late.
Yeah.
Yeah. End of his career, Dwayne Wade, and paid him like it was still peak Dwayne Wade. And again, his numbers weren't terrible, but again, another guy who can't shoot.
Sure.
Yeah, you surrounded a slasher and mid-range shooter, an occasional three-point shooter in Butler, with no three-point shooters. Because again, then you hung on to Taj Gibson and pushed Mirotic to the bench, and then barely used him, and made him your fifth option on offense when he was in, and it didn't look good. But now that he's playing next to Anthony Davis, and he's really only the third option on that offense, and sometimes the fourth, but at least the third, and some days the second, depending on how Drew's playing. He's looked really good. He has some moments where he's a little less inconsistent, but he's also done, I think, a better job of noticing when he's not got his shot, and just like, okay, here you go, Anthony. Here you go, Drew. Here you go, Julius Randle, who's looked really good. That may be the steal of the offseason, by the way.
Yeah.
That's the kind of move, if they could find one more piece to put in that team, between Julius Randle and one more piece, that may keep Anthony Davis in New Orleans a lot longer than people are anticipating.
J.R. Smith?
No, not J.R. Smith.
Oh.
Not J.R. Smith. No. I don't know who that piece would be. It's still too early. The Wizards are ready to blow up. Maybe Bradley Beal. Another three-point stroker. And not a three-point stroker who will give them a heart attack half the time. Can't tell the score. No, not J.R. Smith. I mean, it could end up being J.R. Smith because he's that cheap. I'd rather see a Kyle Korver than a J.R. Smith. But I don't think Kyle Korver is the kind of move that moves the needle. I think a Bradley Beal moves the needle. It just depends on what you got to give up to get it.
Right.
Because then suddenly, if you've got Etuan Moore coming off the bench as opposed to starting, the bench looks a lot better. And you're just even more versatile. Because, again, you're going to have a three-headed front court of Davis, Mirotic, and Randall. Then you're going to have Drew, Etuan, Elfrid Payton, Bradley Beal.
That's a pretty good...
I mean, they really need a small forward, really badly. Even in this positionless basketball, you don't need to go from, like, all point guard combo guards to all bigs. Like, you need a little bridge in between. No, God, no.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
I need an explanation on that one.
And I'm just stopped right there. Because talking about Carmelo Anthony anywhere near a competitive basketball team right now is one of the most idiotic things. We have seen he will not defer his role to be a competitive basketball player. Period. End of discussion. He's one of those guys who'd rather go down, be on a losing team, chucking up 30 shots a game, than be a complimentary piece on a winning team. He won't adjust his role. He will. So why on earth would you put him around a team that has proven to be its best time and time again when Anthony Davis needs people who just open up space for him? And Carmelo Anthony is not a good three-point shooter. On any level is he a good spot-up three-point shooter. He would be a terrible fit for that roster. He would be toxic in that locker room. He would be a nightmare. Again, Houston is playing better without Carmelo Anthony around. You should not be able to say that about one of the 20 best players of the last decade. Yet, somehow, he is one of those guys, the minute he leaves, team gets better. He's not the first in that scenario. He's not the last in that scenario. But he is one of those guys, the minute he leaves, teams get better. Same way Zach LaVine is going to be Kevin Love 2.0. Good stats, bad team guy. Because he doesn't. Because you're already seeing it. First off, his stats, his 3-point shooting is atrocious again. His numbers from the field have gone really bad. Like, everybody is quick to point the points per game. But he's inefficient. He can't shoot from distance. More turnovers than assists. He can't be a primary ball handler. Where on earth is, I think everybody was quick to rush out, well, hey, he scored 20, 30 a night. He's worth all this. Then he talks about, well, if I don't score, we're not competitive. Well, then Julius Randle wah, wah, wah. I was just talking about Julius Randle. That's why it's on my mind. The opposite end of free agent signing spectrum this year, one of the worst free agent signings of this offseason.
Jabari Parker.
It finally starts scoring some points, and now Zach LaVine's barely putting up 10. Like, oops.
He gave you your explanation before that went down. I'm tired.
I'm tired. Motherfucker, you're 15 games into an NBA season, you're 24, and you just got $20 million a year. You should not be tired already. Not even close. If you are tired, that is further proof that you were paid way too much money. Way too much money. Because they're not playing. It's not like he's playing Jimmy Butler kind of minutes. Although I'm not sure Jimmy Butler's playing Jimmy Butler minutes in Philadelphia anymore. Brett Brown is not that kind of coach.
Oh, no.
But you can't sit there and act like you're playing those minutes. Nobody's playing those minutes in Chicago right now. So to pretend you're tired, why? Because you sort of pretended to try on defense for like 2 minutes? Like, sorry. Zach LaVine, still a bust. Hashtag fire Garpax. Peace out. That deal has not aged well into the quarter mark of the first season of the deal. So into the 16th mark of the deal, it already has aged poorly. Congratulations. This is a guy you've got to build around now. Well done. Him and Jabari Parker. I think that's a perfectly good note to go out on. Jabari Parker and Zach LaVine suck. The Bulls need to fire Garpax. I feel like I'm going to say this every time I talk to you guys. From now till the time it happens, is going to be my drumbeat. I will build my army around fire Garpax. I will continue to be the voice that says the Bulls will not win because they will not draft a guy like R.J. Barrett at the top of the draft if that is their case. They will find somebody who's safer pick, who's got a higher floor than that. Now, don't worry about the ceiling. We got to find a higher floor. Higher floor. Should be the name. That should be the book written after the Bulls finally do get rid of Garpax. The highest floor with the lowest ceiling. The worst room in all of the NBA. Somebody go write it. So thanks again for tuning in. This is Off Base Sports. I was your host, Jason Benicki-Critchlow. Remember, tweet at me every Thursday morning that there's not an episode out. It's my challenge to you guys. Make me get these out. Get them out on time. Get you one every week. We'll make sure we make it as entertaining as we can. And hopefully, in the future, I'll even sneak in some phone calls. I was going to try today, but we're already over an hour and a half. So I'm going to make a random phone call. Because that's how I'm going to do them, by the way. I'm just going to randomly call my friends to talk sports and record it. So you guys will get that treat. Peace out.
See ya.